First of all, I apologize for the look of this video because I am holding this tiny microphone and I really don't like when people use these tiny clip-on mics as a main speaking microphone, but the ocean is just a couple of 100 meters away and the waves are quite loud, so this is the only way you can hear me. So again, pardon. But I wanted to make this video to validate you and recognize you and tell you that you are not crazy for feeling the way that you're feeling.
You're not crazy, oh no, you're not crazy. You're just going through a spiritual awakening.
You know, it's easy to say as an outsider, I'm not sure what you're going through, but it can seem like it's easy to say, you're not crazy, it's normal what you're feeling. If you're going through a spiritual breakthrough, dark night of the soul, this big transformation, this big awakening, it's easy for others to look at you and say, oh yeah, but it's gonna be for the better, it'll pass, you know, it's all for the greater good, there's a reason for this and everything has meaning. But somebody that went through a really deep awakening and the dark night of the soul for over 3 years, I felt absolutely insane. And even though there were certain people from my spiritual community or coaches that I had worked with that told me it's part of the process, you're not crazy, it's gonna be okay, in the moment when you're going through those difficulties, when you feel like a prisoner of your own mind, like you feel that everything in your life is just unfolding in the opposite direction of what you would want to or expect to, it's very hard to keep this positive attitude. One thing that I constantly thought about as I was going through my own journey, and now what I hear from a couple of people close to me, and also hundreds of you that have messaged me and commented saying, I feel crazy, I feel like I'm losing my mind, I don't understand what's going on. I just want to validate your feelings and recognize them, that it's very difficult and it's exhausting. It's not like a 9-to-5 job where you can take a break and say, oh, okay, yeah, I clock out. Now I'm gonna have a break from my mind, you know, for the weekend. It's a 24/7 thing that's going on and running in the background. And especially if you don't have a community or like-minded people that have gone through the same transformation or are currently going through this big transformation and awakening, it can feel quite isolating, but also it might feel like your feelings and your experiences are being, I don't want to use the word like gaslit, but if there are people on the outside that don't really understand what is a spiritual awakening and what is this journey and what is this healing process, they might invalidate your feelings and, you know, label you as, oh, like that person is depressed or they're losing their minds, which is not helpful because you already feel like you're losing your mind. But it's very important to try and surround yourself with people or find resources from people that have gone through the process so they can tell you, as I'm telling you right now, you are not crazy. And to give you an example, this was really in the depths of kind of my own personal hell. That's the only way I can describe it. When I was going through my Dark Night of the Soul experience, if you don't know what it is, I'll link the video above. As I was going through this experience, I don't know how to say it. I have never experienced so much emotional pain and suffering. I felt very emotionally unstable. My nervous system was dysregulated. I cried probably 5 days out of the week for years. I was constantly triggered. I had panic attacks. It was just an awful experience. And as I was in the depth of this experience, I was at the same time studying psychology and I was working with a therapist. So anyways, there was a lot of psychology around me. And I remember one day losing my mind, and I, also at the same time as I'm studying psychology and I'm studying all of these disorders, I had convinced myself that I was not going through a spiritual awakening, but actually I probably had some kind of a personality disorder. I was pretty sure I had a borderline personality disorder. And again, this is not to stray away from, the fact that there are people actually with these conditions, but I'm just saying that all of these intense experiences that I had, and I always felt like these two people battling inside of myself, I kind of self-diagnosed myself as having borderline personality disorder. And I remember crying to my mom, saying, I'm losing my mind. I'm pretty sure I have a personality disorder. I feel insane. I don't understand how my mind can be stuck in these cycles. For the 3 years or 3.5 years that I was going through this experience, I had the worst sleep of my life. I would wake up 10 to 15 times a night. I'm not even kidding. I couldn't sleep properly. I had forgotten what it feels like to have a long night and a restful sleep. So then I had a session with my psychologist, and I shared this with her, and she calmed me down, and she said, listen, like, I'm the expert here, and I can tell you, you definitely don't have a personality disorder, especially borderline personality disorder. And she just told me that because I have touched a lot of things that were never touched before, childhood, the subconscious mind, all the traumas, everything was coming to the surface, and I felt completely overwhelmed by it. So she kind of explained everything to me, and again, she said that it was normal to feel the way that I felt. And later on, I also worked with some spiritual teachers, and I've worked with another coach for quite a while as well. And once I've exited, for the time being at least, once I've exited the dark night of the soul, I realized, wow, I was not crazy actually.
You're not crazy, oh no, you're not crazy. You're just going through a spiritual awakening.
And now the last year, I felt the most calm I've ever felt. I feel so grounded. I feel so at peace. If I get triggered, I regulate myself really quickly. And I honestly feel like a completely different person. All this because of awfully challenging 3.5, 4 years of going into my own personal hell and descending deep, deep, deep into subconscious mind and trauma and just everything that was untouched. And because I kept moving through it. And now that I have gone to the other side of it, again, just for the time being, because this journey never ends. So I'm sure in some years, I'm gonna go right back under and have another growth spur, so to say. But at least for now, for this specific stage, I came out to the other side, and I cannot believe how differently I feel and how different I am. And I'm incredibly grateful, as silly as it sounds, for all the suffering, for all the triggers, for all the dysregulation, because it taught me, or it kind of made the path to get to where I am right now. Once again, what you're going through right now, feeling like you are awakening, like you are questioning life, you're questioning people that are around you, you're questioning systems, you are beginning to actually be aware of your thoughts and your beliefs and the way you've lived your life. You are stepping out of the role of the victim, and you are recognizing that you do have responsibility and control over your life, and now is a choice that you get to make about how you want your life to continue. You are fighting with your thoughts and with yourself and with your emotions, and it may feel like you are overwhelmed, you cannot control your emotions. That's how I felt. I felt always swept up by emotions. I had so much anger, so much frustration, so much grief and sadness and fear and just absolute panic and not wanting to let go of control. I was a slave to my emotions. That's the only way I can describe it. If you're feeling the same way, if you feel like you are kind of like holding, for your dear life on this journey and not knowing what to do, or not knowing, where to turn and how to make sense of it all, because it's when things are so difficult and so challenging, and you are doing this deep, deep, deep inner work and self-analysis, it's very overwhelming, but also at some point you just start to lose meaning and lose purpose. People can tell you, find meaning in your journey, what's the purpose for this awakening? But let me tell you, when you're in it, you see no purpose. You see no meaning. You're like, all right, well, I gotta get through it somehow. I want to live and survive this, but there's no greater meaning until you get to the other side. So once again, I do not know your personal journey, your story, what it is that you're going through, and we as humans come with such big stories, and a lot of the times, I can write 10 pages and give it to you and say, this is who I am. But this is not who I am. This is the story that I'm telling you about who I am. I'm taking all the events that have happened and I'm molding it into my own identity. That's okay if you are happy and pleased and at peace with yourself and with your life, but a lot of the times we hold on to these stories as validation of not being brave enough to move on and wonder, is there somebody else that I could be without all this, without this specific story, without the suffering? And if you're going through an awakening, a spiritual transformation, a spiritual awakening, the most important thing is just to keep moving. Just keep moving through it. Keep moving through it. I got stuck quite a few times in being a victim and descending to shame and fear and guilt in a sense, and telling myself I belong here, like I belong to feel bad, I belong to not have great things happen in my life, I belong to be treated in this certain way. But you don't belong in the suffering. You don't belong. Don't wear your suffering as a badge of honor, because it's not. Just keep moving through the stages. I see you. I've been where you are, but you are not crazy. You're just waking up, baby. You're just stepping out of a dream that didn't have a lot of consciousness and awareness, and you are actually going into something purposeful and conscious. Think of it as the Matrix, choosing between the blue pill or the red pill. I commend you for doing the work and analyzing yourself and cultivating more self-awareness, and I really, really wish you all the best. You got this. Just keep moving through it.